Welcome to Enlightened Masculinity podcast. We have, again, the great Bryan Casella, and his handles are Bryan Casella. All of his handles, it's easy to find, Bryan Casella, with a Y, of course, with a Y, and two L's, but not pronounced Spanish like Casella. It's Casella. And we also have our co-host, Akash Inti, from Northeast, where he's a biotech research analyst and registered yoga teacher. Myself, Chris DeVilbus, Yogi Chris PhD. Well, that's the first time I think I've introduced myself as Chris DeVilbus. It was interesting talking about the Bryan Casella handle in the last one. It got me thinking, like I should unify yoga, all of my handles, and yoke them all together. I was thinking about it. So that, anyway, there's my name, guys, and I said it really well, too. It's hard to say. And founder of Ninth Limb, this podcast sponsored by Ninth Limb. So we're going to get right into it. If you don't know who Bryan is, Bryan, he's, what are the words? He is the Spartan of business. But more than that, because Sparta, where is it? I don't know where Sparta is these days. I don't know the full story of it. But he's a modern-day Spartan of business. There it is. That's how I describe him. And, pro ball player turned real estate extraordinaire turned multi-stream income and social media influencer. Welcome, Bryan Casella. Give us a little bit of feedback. What do you think about the podcast before I even get into any material? I'd love to hear your take.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. You have a good dynamic here. And even the name of the podcast, Enlightened Masculinity, right? We don't run across that every day. All the podcasts now are make more money. This is how to invest in real estate, become a millionaire overnight, social media marketing, right? It's very surface level. And masculinity is something that I believe is lacking in today's culture, especially for the modern day, in quotes, man. And I'm glad that you guys are, doing this podcast and bringing on some rock star people, man. We need to blow this thing up and we need to spread the message. So let's do it.
Yeah, Bryan, one of the questions I have for you is that it's no surprise that you are the modern day Spartan and you embody it in your way of being. What are some of your values, or what are some of the values of this man and how he acts and conducts himself in the world?
Yeah, great question, man. As I have grown up and done more in my life, especially us, because we're the men that are, warriors and scholars, right? We're always studying. And as I started studying, Sparta and some of these other things that I study, I started seeing a lot of similarities in what I was believing, even though as growing up, a lot of these internal beliefs that I had were in conflict with what I was being taught in society, right? And at the time, I obviously didn't have the strength that I have now. So I still was kind of in this limbo. Wait, do I go with how I really want to do it, or do I go with what mommy and daddy said, right? I remember that growing up with a lot of subjects. So I already knew I had that seed within. So, I started studying and learning more, and it's just dawning on me. It's like, whoa, these cultures that were so affluent and so powerful back in the day, a lot of those values and beliefs I already have in me, or I see a lot of sense in them. So it would make sense that I would adopt them, or at least be like, hey, I'm not the only one. That's kind of when I had that aha moment. I was like, oh, I'm not the only one, right? The Spartans did this, the Greeks did this, or so-and-so. So that gave me a lot of power. But basically very simple, man. Number one that's in me is I just want to win whatever it is that I'm doing and be number one. Not for the trophy, not for the money, just to be like, I beat everybody, right? I would consider myself, whether it's sports or something else, never the most, we can say, physically gifted or had connections and all that. I just work my ass off, right? Like I literally was just like, you know what? I'm going to be the first one in the office, the last one to leave, the first one on the basketball court, the last one to leave. I want keys to the gym. When you're vacationing, I'm working. When you're partying, I'm in the gym working on my game. And that's just something that it runs through my veins. It's like, I want to be number one, right? Even when I play video games. I mean, Chris has been around. I get all upset when I don't get first. I'm like, God damn it. I need to work and get better, right? Like whatever it is, I just want to be number one. So that competitiveness for sure, right? Number two is I take a lot of pride in taking care of my vessel, right? As far as grooming, physique, like that is extremely important to me. Not only do I want to be capable athletically, but I want to have a sharp mind. I want a clear mind. I want energy. I want to be able to produce at the highest level, in whatever I'm doing in social media, with my real estate business, training people, coaching. I want to be sharp. And if I take care of this vessel, I know it's going to be a better instrument to teach and help and bless this world with whatever I'm going to leave it with and my mark, So that to me is extremely important. And it always has been since I was a kid. And, you know, I can even think back to being in high school or middle school and being in moments where everyone's maybe enjoying like a cake or something. And I'm like, you know what, I've eaten enough, I'm good. Because I had that in my mind. I said, hey, if I eat this extra slice of cake, I'm not gonna feel good. And then the next 3 or 4 hours, I can't perform the way I wanna perform. So I'm gonna decline the cake, even though it's delicious and I want it and I have a sweet tooth, I'm still gonna deny it, right? Something else was always being loyal to my clique, my team, my friends, whatever it was. I was always that one that was extremely loyal to people, like my crew, right? I got them. If they need $50 because they're broke right now or something went wrong, I'll give them $50. Just that loyalty, and it's almost like a pack of lions, right? We look out for each other. That was always in me too, even from a kid. You know, I remember back in the day getting in fights that I had nothing to do with just because I was standing up for somebody, or somebody was getting bullied and I stepped in the way, or somebody in my circle maybe got a little bit too wasted, we can say, off of some beverages, and I would have to step in and, you know, dismantle a situation. Then I would end up getting thrown into a fight with 20 people, and you know how that goes, right? But, you know, I could sit here and list them all day, Akash, but I'll leave it at that for now. And just one of those things, like I even got it tattooed here, the last one, no retreat, no surrender, right? Spartan law. You don't retreat, you don't surrender, you die in battle. That to me is, you know what, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to burn the boats and I'm going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off, right? That's just always been in me too. When I got into real estate, I remember people saying, well, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out? And I looked at them and said, that thought doesn't even register. Like, what do you mean if it's not going to work out? Like, that's not even in my reality. It's not even a possibility. That's not even in my world. It's not even in the quantum field. Like, that's not even possible. Like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. So that's one of the reasons I got that tattooed on me. But same thing, right? To me, it's plan A, or it's plan A, or it's plan A, and that's it.
I see that. I see how you really need both of those too, because if you're only in it to win, if you find yourself losing, you won't have the grit to stick it out. But if you're all in and you're burning your boats, but you're not in it to win, then you'll make mistakes and drive yourself into the ground, you know. So the ability to, you know, always go for the gold and never give up. It's just like, wow, you got to have both. And then there's no failure in that. That is a life well lived. And, oh, yeah, where was I going to take this? I had something really, really interesting. I don't remember what it was. It was, you know, extremely fascinating. And it had to do with your business, something about this or that. I really lost the question. I am almost embarrassed about it. But if I was to invent a new question right now and just create from like 0 points, then I would say seemed to be an analogous between, I don't know how to say it, analogous. This is like my new word, but I'm trying to like see where it fits in language, but it doesn't fit all the time, so I'm forcing it. Anyway, the analogy being that Arash said once, Arash Bazar, is a party bazaar, my teacher, that getting the second girlfriend was the hardest. That get one, okay, now we're looking for a second. In the meantime, you might lose the first one. You get another first one, and then you get another first one. Eventually, a first one will stick around long enough for a second one. Then it becomes much easier for the third, fourth, fifth, because then you'll have one girl with compliance on there already being another girl in the picture, and then the first girl that was okay with the second girl coming in, and depending on how harmonious that is or whatever. But it reminded me of that when you said, I have a mainstream of income, make it great. Then the second one, I'm already set up for it. And I'm wondering if in Enlightened Masculinity, you know, relationships are part of the topics also. And I'm wondering, what's your take on that, running it in like parallel with like the relationship matrix of make your one relationship really solid for that opening, you could say, to go for the goal.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. And that's the beauty in a lot of these things is it's always relatable to something else, you know? Like I remember even sales and seduction, you know, very similar. And, you know, when I think about that, it's absolutely true. You know, I think of my relationship now. I've been with my girlfriend for 4 years and 3 months. So it's been a while, right? It was April 10th of 2015. So what is that? 4 years and 3 months, almost exactly, right to the day. You know, if I had even thought about introducing a second girlfriend or another girl in the first 6 months, I don't even know how that would have gone. Now it's a completely different subject. right? So 100%, man, 100%. And as we get closer to that threshold of having the second and the third, the stronger and the deeper the relationship gets, the more actually I believe it makes sense. Just like your second, third, and fourth income stream is going to make sense, right? Because you're going to hit that point where like, okay, like it makes sense now to do it. So 100%, I agree.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Bryan, I like the principles, the way that you've outlined, I guess, your principles and I guess it seems the way you communicate and the way that you conduct yourself seems that you have a very clean mind and that things are very, not compartmentalized, but organized. Can you speak a little bit more about this, I guess, in terms of like mindset? How do you go about organizing your mind, or what are some of your methods of being organized with your mind?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. I believe that's most people's downfall, right? Their mind just goes everywhere. With me, and this is something we learned from Arash that I think has helped me tremendously, was you said your word is, I believe you said, I may be misquoting a little bit, your word is law, meaning like when you say something, you do it, right? And that to me has been one of the foundational pillars to leading and aiding me into getting to where I'm at. And it started with small stuff, right? I'm going to get up on time. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to show up on time to the office. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it got to the point where I built such a rhythm and it had become so normal in my life in a world where what everybody says means nothing, right? Like someone's like, oh, I'm going to lose weight this year. And even their friends are like, shut up, dude. You're not going to lose any weight. You've been saying that for the last 10 years. So people's words literally nowadays mean nothing. But for me, even for my audience online, they know when I say something, you can just see the comment section. Damn, he's about to do it. Like it's already accepted as a reality. So that was one of the main things, because when that's activated, it makes it very easy for me to live, like you said, clean and just smooth. And okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Boom, this is on my schedule. It's like, it's just very systematic and easy. It's almost like I'm removing all of the self-imposed obstacles that people have put on themselves. And it's just, I'm being now. It's just, I do, right?
And I think, Bryan, I think that was a lot to do with the essence of my original question in the last podcast of how do you cut out what needs to get cut out? And would you describe a little bit more about what you just said in respect to cutting out what needs to get cut out, so that all activity you could say is like value added?
Absolutely, yeah. So let's rewind to the beginning. When I'm getting into social dynamics, I'm getting into real estate, and I'm making a complete 180, right? I had just been off from basketball for a year and a half. I'm feeling lost, and I am a little cluttered mentally, okay? In the beginning, all it really was, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. Okay, I'm over feeling sorry for myself and all that other stuff. I'm ready to flip the page to the new chapter. And this chapter consists of XYZ, which for me was help my parents, right? Help my parents. That was number one priority, because my mom got laid off from her job and my dad's hours as a truck driver got cut back severely. So he went from 4 trips to 1 trip a week. Their income is low, and now they're at risk of losing their house. Okay, want to help my family. Boom, number one. Number two was get my financial situation set at least to the point where I could help them and also live and take care of myself on my own, right? So I jotted down, I would need at that time, and why I always bring it up to you guys, I needed $5,000 a month. I think I told you, Chris, in the beginning, I was like, dude, if I make $5,000 a month, I'm the man. Even rappers can't touch me, right? I was that thinking like that. So 5,000, boom, I need 5,000 to help my parents, which is 2,000 of that 5,000 every month. And other than that was, okay, I want to now be able to stand on my own 2 feet and say, I run my own business, because I had had that seed in my mind since I was a kid. So now that I had those 3 points, everything derived from that. And my commitment to myself was, if anything that comes across my desk or any thought comes up that has nothing to do with these 3, it's eradicated. Otherwise, I'm telling myself in the universe that I don't care about my family. I don't want to live on my own and take care of myself. And I don't deserve to have a business, right? But I damn well know I'm going to get all of those 3, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And from there, every choice was easy. If I would wake up tired and it was, sleep in and go to the gym, I was like, dude, you get your ass up. You go to the gym. Otherwise, you're not going to have a bed to sleep in because parents are going to lose the house. You're not going to have any money, but okay, cool. Let's do it. So that clarity with what the next step was and having those priorities just made everything automatic for me. And it kind of created this filter where when things would come in, it's almost like when you have the Brita for the water and it just, takes out the impurities. It was just automatic. Any thought would come in or any desire to do something that didn't fit those three, boom. And that list of three, by the way, before I pass it back to you, Chris, I had it everywhere. I had it on my wall, in my bathroom, in my car, in my pocket, at my desk, at my office. It was everywhere. Everywhere you looked, like the rear view mirror, like the little fold mirror on the car, I had a little note card that said it, right? My bathroom, everywhere it was there, those three priorities. So I was just constantly reminded of it.
Very nice. Very nice. Akash, where do you want to take it? I know where I want to take it. My next question, but it's your turn, brother.
The question I guess I have is, Brian, it's no surprise that you're a wealthy man, and not wealthy because of the things that you have, but the mind that you have. More about, I guess, what wealth means to you.
Well, wealth means to me, it has to go and extend greater than you, right? Like I feel much more fulfilled being able to help my parents, open up my home to anybody. If someone needs $5, $1,000, $10,000, being able to give it to them and not flinching when you do it. That to me is wealth. It's not necessarily you have X amount of investments and you pull in $500,000 a month in passive income. Like that to me, those mathematical equations are cool. But to me personally, wealth is being in a position where it's like, I have an empire, and if anybody that I see as an ally or a friend or family needs assistance, they can count on me to do it, and I can provide it. That's the thing. If I can provide assistance or, hey, do this, do that, without obviously, I'm not requesting anything in return. I'm just doing it because I can. That to me is the definition of wealth in my world.
Man, Brian, really winding this down, your time is so jam-packed with value. You just start talking and it's like, wow. It's like every word you're just waiting for like the value to drop. It doesn't ever drop. You just keep this high value communication. And, you have given me so much value in this episode and the last episode. And with a lot of it being, I think, in retrospect of what you lived, the path that you lived, I'm curious, what are your goals for the future and how do you look at future making? What are your time horizons, your, timelines that you work with? How do you go about goals and that sort, the whole manifestation, but the material side of it?
Yeah, great question. There's so much. I've done a lot of the traditional training when it comes to goal setting, which is pretty good, but I really started digging deeper into myself, and I realized that if I don't have at least one goal on my board or one intention to do something that I see as like completely 180 from where I'm going, I'm not excited. So I had shared with a couple people, I think you've heard it too, that I wanted to open up at some point like a bar or a sports bar, right? And I just happen to have a client now who's in that world, and I'm probably going to do it. A couple years ago, that to me was scary and almost like, why would I do that? Why don't you just stick to selling real estate? That's why I put it on the board. I said, I need to get
Yogi Chris, are you getting Brian frozen or no? Is this just me?
Yeah, he's frozen for me. No, there he went. But I can hear you. You can hear me? Yeah, I see you moving. You're muted, but yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, well, we'll just continue because that was just incredible. We'll really wind it down here. There's nothing I can really add to what Brian is saying. There's 10,000 takeaways from this message, and we would all appreciate it if you leave your comments, if you share the episode, if you tell your friends about Enlightened Masculinity, and of course follow all of Bryan Casella's material. Handle Bryan Casella with a Y and 2 L's, and you'll find him on YouTube, Instagram, and all the social media. So thank you for tuning in for Enlightened Masculinity podcast. Thank you, Akash. And any closing statements from you, brother? Also, join our Facebook group, Enlightened Masculinity.
Yes, echoing what you said, join the Facebook group. We've been putting out some really killer content out there. And if there's any suggestions that you have for types of hosts that you would like, always open to that. I leave with the same words of keep up.
Potential guests, not hosts. Not hosts.
That's right. Guests.
You're the host, unless you're putting in your 2-week, thing.
Not today. Not today. But thank you. And namaste.